All right, let's start off the meeting. From the first question, I would like to hear from you guys. What do you know about Sandwich Generation? Does anyone want to give me their notion? What do you guys know about Sandwich Generation? Please answer just based on the question. All right, so let's see. Okay, Miss Ekalita, nice. All right, Miss Ekalita, time is yours. What do you know about Sandwich Generation?
From what I have been read, it's the generation that have to responsible to have financial responsible for the upper generation and with their down generation, so they are in the middle. Yeah, just like sandwich. Yeah.
Okay, so you say that they have financial responsibility towards two different generation. Is that it? All right.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kalita. Anyway, before I start off again with the other speaker, what generation are you? Are you Gen Z or Gen X or Gen Y? Are you a baby boomers? Ms. Ekalita?
You're asking me. I think
Yes.
Gen Z itu bukannya nowadays ya?
Yeah, sort of.
Kalau baby boomers itu apa sih baby boomers? Aku pernah dengar, cuman aku nggak gitu ngerti ini. Baby boomers itu apa?
Oh, that's fine if you don't want to, actually, I don't want to explain that more because I think I'm afraid that we're talking too much about things that's not really that relevant, but that's fine if that you don't know what part of generation that you're part of. That's fine. Thank you, Miss Akalita. Okay, thank you for your opinion. How about the others? What do you know, guys, about Sandwich Generation? Any other opinion? Please raise your hand if you want to give an opinion. Okay, Miss Sophie. I'm afraid that you're in the airplane.
I'm not yet. I'm just at the airport.
All right.
Okay, so thank you so much for the opportunity. I think Sandwich Generation is a person or a generation who has the responsibility to fulfill the necessities for their parents and the people under them, like their children or their younger siblings.
Their younger siblings. Interesting. Nice. All right. Thank you, Miss Sophie.
Thank
All
you.
right. Miss Ririn, do you want to say anything? Miss Ririn? Okay.
Yeah, accidental. Sorry.
That's fine. Okay, let me hear what your opinion. What do you know about Sandwich Generation?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same as others. It's related with financial burden that is inherited to the children from the parents. Be it that, be it meeting the enemy. Yeah, things like that.
I love the fact that you brought up about the word inherited. It means like the way people being a Sandwich Generation is basically inherited, or they're being passing down to other generation. Is that what you're trying to say? Thank you for actually giving your notion. It's really nice to hear your voice. All right, how about Miss Asti?
Hi.
Hi, Miss Asti, please give me your opinion about what do you know about Sandwich Generation. It's really nice to hear from Ms. Rina and others stating that it's basically inherited. In your perspective, do you think that Sandwich Generation is inherited, or do you have any other definition of Sandwich Generation?
Well, I guess other people has given their opinion about Sandwich Generation. So maybe it's pretty much like that. And I guess I kind of agree with Miss Ririn that it's inherited because like the upper generation or the parents are usually giving like responsibility mostly about financial. And then the sandwich generation, because they have burden from their parents, and then a generation after them, like their child and others, while they are supposed to focus on their own family, they still need to be responsible for their former family. And the sandwich generation, as long as I know, they don't have time to enjoy their own life. So because they are to focus on others. I
Interesting.
guess that's
All
from
right.
me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Asti. I love the fact that you're bringing up about the enjoyment and how it's basically relevant to sandwich generation and exactly how they passing the burden from their previous generation. Nice. It's really interesting to start off. Any other, attendees tonight want to share their opinion about what do you guys know about sandwich generation? Mr. Febri or Mr. Alvin? Thunder? Raise your hand if you want to give an opinion about what do you know about sandwich generation, or you have different definition of sandwich generation. Ivander, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Yes, you're very clear, crystal clear.
Actually, I have quite the same opinion with Miss Asti. So it's actually when we talk about sandwich generation, we basically go down from the sandwich itself, right? We are like probably the fillings of the sandwich, which is later on stick by the service layer and the end layer, which from there we can define the layers as probably, you can say it as a burden, you can say it as a condition, or you can say it also like inheritance of probably whatsoever, especially from your family. Yeah, especially from your family, which is actually keep squeezing us. We try to squeezing us like that. So every time we act, we need to see how is the condition of the our parents. And yeah, then like we cannot escape from that condition actually. Yeah.
Okay. Hold that thoughts when you said that we cannot escape, because tonight we're going to talk about how we break the chain of this, phenomenon. So I love the fact that you brought up about the the squeezing circumstance that happened towards the sandwich generation that they have to think of as the burden. Thank you, Mr. Ifanda. Anyone wants to share their opinion, or I can move to another question? Raise your hand if you want to speak up your mind. All right, so let's dive in more. I already heard how you guys define the sandwich generation. So the next question would be, are you a part of it, or any of your relatives are? Please share your personal stories about the sandwich generation. Are you guys a part of it, or probably other people, surrounding you, or any of your relatives are basically sandwich generation? Or are you guys the generation that actually the one breaking the sandwich generation? Let's hear from anyone. Okay, let's see. Does anyone want to share their opinions? Raise your hand. Let's see from Mr. Isan. Mr. Isan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
My voice crystal clear.
Oh, nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
So I just want to make sure this question, are you part of it or any of the relative are? I think I'm not a part of it, but I think I can say that I just develop the relative.
Okay.
Usually, I don't really have responsible to pay sometimes to pay the necessity for my parents or my brother, but sometimes I just give it up a part of my salary to my parents. So I don't think I'm a part of sandwich generations. That's all.
So basically just give some of your income to your parents, but it's not to be a responsibility of yours. It's just like,
Yes.
okay, it's your, if you're willing to give it, you're, you can give it. It's like optional. Okay. So if you say that is your relatives is one of the sandwich generation, can you share us about your relatives? What do you see from them or your relatives as the sandwich generation? What do you see from them?
Could you mind repeat the question, because I think the connection was really bad.
Okay, I say that because you said that it was your relative as the sandwich generation. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Can you share to me your personal stories about how do you see your relative as the sandwich generation?
Yeah, I think they're really strong. They're really amazing persons who have burden responsibility from their above their ages, under the ages, and they have to have working for anything and being a valuable person, being a beneficial person, not only themselves but also for others. I think they're really amazing. And uh, I think I have some of my friends who live in some generation, and they're really hardworking. They're really working really hard. They are only working in the main company he working, but also try to find another income by being part-time, but very financial. And they usually didn't have much time to hang out with us, and they usually focus on uh, doing their jobs, even for the holiday. I think that's all.
Okay, nice, Mr. Isan. It's really actually heading to our main discussion, which is what basically the sandwich generation has to face and how you can see from the perspective of sandwich generation itself. Okay, that's nice that you're actually not a part of the sandwich generation because it's really burdening if you are a part of it. So I want to hear probably from someone who's probably part of it. Let's see from Miss Sophie first. Miss Sophie, you raise your hand. Are you a part of the
Yes.
sandwich generation or any of your relatives are?
Okay. Am I the part of sandwich generation? Fortunately, no. I hope not. I
Hopefully
really hope
not.
not. No, please. I'm very thankful for my parents who taught me to not. They said that when I grow up, I don't have to pay for their life, even though I really want to taking
Care
them
of
for
them.
holidays and stuff, but don't make it responsibility or necessary thing. But I have a couple relatives. It's pretty close, which is my auntie, but my auntie have parents-in-law. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the problem is the parents-in-law are sick and they need amount of money to pay a medical checkup every month or every 2 weeks. And it's kind of I can see the suffering and struggle from my aunt. Yeah, from my auntie, because they're not only pay for the parents of the husband, but also they need to pay for their children themselves, for their education, their necessities for just daily basis. So that's one of the situation that I witnessed from my family. And the impact from it is they're always fighting. Like it's always caused by financial, yeah, and they're fighting a lot. And I think one of the reason that they're fighting because the sickness or this kind of situation is just happened recently, so it's not they haven't discussed it before marriage yet. You know, it happened when they already got children, and the situation just gets keep getting messed up.
Interesting.
Yeah, because like the more days, the more money the parents need. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Yeah. I think
The
that's
bigger
one
the
of the
children,
example.
yeah, the more needs
Yeah.
you need, you require. Exact. Thank you, Miss Sophie, for bringing it up
Pleasure.
about, yeah, exactly. When you say it's suffering to see how they have to cope up with the situation, and we have no idea about the emergency could actually happen to our lives when we're not prepared yet about these circumstances. We're just probably falling into the sandwich generation, or just a real case burden of financial issues, and then all of a sudden our generation can become, it's not as simple as that actually to be a sandwich generation, but what just happened to your relatives is actually the epitome of sandwich generation. All right, let's hear from Miss Asti. Miss Asti, are you there?
Okay, I'm here. Hello, gangs.
Yeah. Hello, gangs.
No, I said again. Okay,
oh,
so
again. I thought you said gangs. Well, that's fine if you want to say
yeah.
gangs. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so back to the question.
Mhm.
Am I a part of the sandwich generation or any relatives?
Mhm.
But to me, it's my own mother. Apparently, is
Mm.
the sandwich generation here. And although I am not a part of it, but I can feel the direct effect of being a sandwich generation.
Wow.
So it's more like the, how to say this, the effort my mom did to balance the demanding of her own parents and her own family, which somehow over the years it affects my own family, mostly in financially,
Yes.
and maybe for my mom personally, it affects her emotional
Yeah.
because yeah, like she needs to take care of her old parents, which is also sick and refuse to be in the house of her other siblings, like my aunts or uncles. And somehow, some of my aunts and uncle also, how to say this, depend on my mom's. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess as a daughter, which is we are both women now,
Yeah.
I can feel her struggle.
Mhm.
And she doesn't even have time for her own. She takes care of her parents, and it's hard as a woman, which is maybe we are born to be a caregiver, like so she can refuse it too. So yeah, even until now, I feel like my mom is having a struggle to take care of her own well-being, and it's often cause her stress on daily basis. And yeah, being a sandwich generation is that hard, and I don't know
Okay. Wow.
how to find the way out because it's family and bloodline is
Exactly.
like it's so hard. Like we can just run away or break the bond just like that. It's
Exactly.
okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's all.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
actually, Miss Asti, for sharing your personal stories about the sandwich generation. I love the fact that you brought up about your mom is basically being the sandwich generation. I'm not saying that it's good for your mom to be a sandwich generation, but it's really tough, especially to be, as the woman, for being a sandwich generation, as the caregiver, especially when you mentioned as well that we're not just suddenly breaking our bones, that we are with our relatives or our siblings or our family. She has the option to not do that, right? But she still giving a try to actually still caregive other family of yours. And it's really interesting to hear your personal story about it. Your mom is absolutely a Wonder Woman. She's the epitome of Wonder Woman herself, so you should actually learn a lot from her. But I hope so that you're not actually being a sandwich generation later on, so you must be the generation that breaks the chain of the sandwich generation. Thank you, Miss Asi, for your opinion. Let's hear from Mr. Alvin, who has been raising his hand for a couple of minutes already. Mr. Alvin, stating yours.
Yeah, well, unlike the others, I'm the one who part of the sandwich generation.
Should I be happy? No. Actually,
Well,
I love to hear from opinions as sandwich generation because I am myself too. So what do please share your personal stories about being a sandwich generation.
well, it was very difficult at the very beginning, will everybody start from scratch? I start from minus point, I guess.
Wow.
Well, everybody can have the, I don't know,
Mhm.
a family with a good financial support will they will have, I don't know what to say,
Mhm.
but everything's fine for now. I mean, I told you that it was difficult at the beginning, but for now
Mhm.
I'm fine. It's already on the past.
Mhm.
While I still live with my parents, I mean, I still support them, but the financial situations for me for
Mhm.
now, much better.
Much better.
Yeah. So, well, although I'm the sandwich generations, but I still live in good
Mhm.
and happy. Yeah. Well,
Good.
for now, yeah.
All right. When you say that you started off not from scratch, but from like the lower state of yours, even minus you mentioned, how do you basically, like climb up from that minus, as you mentioned, or start off from the lower scratch of being sandwich generation until now? What motivates you to actually break the chain of the sandwich generation?
Well, certainly, I don't have the exact explanations,
Mm-hmm.
but for now, I have a better career,
Mm-hmm.
which also comes with a better payment, salary, and everything.
Ah, nice.
Uh, but I cannot tell you or explain how I climb or how I do that. But in fact, I didn't. I mean, I don't do it alone. I also have siblings.
Mm-hmm.
One brother, a younger brother, which is more successful.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of helps me. He bear most of the family bills,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why we both can cover the family needs
Mm-hmm.
without erupting our financial situations.
Nice. All right. I got some points which is very interesting, that it's getting better when you have basic or like enough um, income or financial support. So we got one point there. Thank you, Mr. Aflon, for sharing your personal stories about being a sandwich generation. It's really nice to have a friend who's basically sharing the same condition. But actually, I'm climbing up about that. So thank you. Is there anyone want to share another perspective or as a sharing their personal stories about being a sandwich generation or your relatives that are part of sandwich generation? Anyone? So basically, when I ask you why you guys are, whether or not you guys are a part of it or any of your relatives are, probably is just because in Indonesia is basically 56% of our population is considered as sandwich generation. So if we have 206 million people as living in Indonesia, so an estimated if 56 million people fall within the sandwich generation. So probably one of you or two of you are sandwich generation, and we need to cope with the situation like that. Even the Ministry of Trade already stating in his speech as well that most Indonesian workers belong to sandwich generation. So this is why I think this topic should be discussed, because I think it has some impact to our society, especially when we are currently, trying to achieve the demographic bonus as the government, because as you may know that being sandwich generation really affects our productivity and the way we see things. Like everyone mentioned already, you guys being stressed or it's really stressful and you have to be striving harder to actually stay survive, and it's really interesting to talk about. All right, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so do you guys think that we normalize the narrative of children to have to support their family needs, or is it a tradition we at the end should follow? Anyone wants to give opinion? Do you think that we actually need to be responsible with our parents or with our previous generation? If you are in your 20s, like in other countries, like in the United States, when you are getting when you're being adult, or you're mature enough that you can actually leave your family and stay, single. All right, let's hear from Mr. Eki. All right, I want to hear from Mr. Alvin and Miss Sophie, but I want to hear from the first speaker first. Mr. Eki, please give your opinion about it. Should we be responsible? Is it a tradition, or what do you get? What do you know?
Oh, well, if the question is about did we normalize the obligation of taking care of your parents? Well, if it is in Indonesia, then I think it more refers to a social construct, the value that we believe as a good. For example, if the kids taking care of the parents, then this value has a good value, has a positive in the moral aspect. Even though that is not entirely true, but lots of people, they believe that is as a good thing. And then because lots of people, they agree on one thing, and then this became one reality. And then for those who not fit, for those who not follow this set of rule, sometimes they got dehumanized by others. Yeah, dehumanized by others, because it has always happened in my childhood. Whenever I saw my aunt, basically my aunt is part of a Sandwich generation, but she escapes because she strongly believes that her only responsibility is taking care of herself. She put her feelings above everything. She just cared about herself. And my family predisposed to think that my aunt is selfish. I used to think in that way in the past. I used to think. And then when I grew up, I realized that I questioned myself, like, why the kids need to always do what parent told to do, or what society told to do, or what society believe as good. Because everyone has a free will. Everyone could decide the thing they want to do, as long as it does not harm people. And therefore, the parent itself need to consider or save money to the futures. If they, how do I say this? If they already make a decision to have kids, and then at least they need to think how to save money to the futures if my kids is not like what I am expected to. Because most of the parents, especially in Indonesia, I'm talking in general. I'm talking in general, not in specific. They tend to put a lot of expectation on their children, and then they think these children, these kids, going to be better than me. Somehow it gave me like they are want to make a new innovation of product. Like I am the first one product, and then a second product, and then a third product. And then this kind of behavior could make a loop that people on it need to follow set of rules, no matter happen. If you don't, then the entire world is going to oppose you.
Let me stop you there. It's going to be very interesting to actually hearing your notion about that. You brought up the social construction, how it becomes the loop, that people think that your children are becoming your, the next version of yours. Is super interesting. But when you say that it's actually social construction, and how you actually shaping your mindset to thought that the thing that actually your aunt was actually selfish because she thought that she's responsible to herself only. Why do you think the social construction, like stating that we need to be responsible to our parents, or to our generation, to our siblings, to our relatives, are basically in our pockets? Why do you think the social construction basically already here in Indonesia?
They already here in the first place. For example, if you are, let's say a first son family, and then you often told to take care of your brother, and then you need to be strong enough to protect your brother, and then you need to, how do I say this, not make your parents disappointed. From those thoughts is already social constructs, because they believe. I mean, the parents believe protecting someone else beside yours is something considered as good. There's no like first rule, you need to protect yourself, because I mean, every individual, the first thing they need to do is they need to protect themselves. They need to live their life, and then they need to be happy by themselves. We just humans. I mean, we are humans. We're not perfect. We cannot make everyone happy.
Yes, sure.
And then I don't know, but most of the time, people consider helping others as a good thing, even though helping others may make yourself suffer. But still, that is considered as a good thing. On the other hand, if you do not help others, even though you feel happy with it, I mean, you can enjoy it, and then people just start calling you, oh, you're so mean, blah, blah, blah. And that's where the stereotype, I mean, not stereotype, but social construct built, created. Because a lot of people in, how do I say this? In one community, for example, they believe in the same value. They believe in the same moral value. Like, if you take care of your parents, then this is something good. Then it is pahala. Then this is an obligation. You need to follow this. That's
exactly.
It. And then just because of it, I mean, they don't even give you a chance to questioning those action, those beliefs. They just tell you, do this, do not talk, just do this. Because if you find the other option, they will start to calling you as rebellion. Like, just do what I told you to do, and that's it. That's it.
All right. There's one actually remaining question that I want to ask you, but I will like to move to Mr. Alvin. Thank you, Mr. Eki, for stating your opinion. It's really nice to know that you brought up about the Indonesian social construction basically shaping the way we thought about the Sandwich generation itself and how people suffer, because they always thought that it's our responsibility to take care or to give other relatives. Well, at the end of the day, what you need to care of is basically yourself only. So it's going to be another question that when basically the person should stand on their own and being dependent on their self only. All right, so let's move to Mr. Alvin. You raise your hand, please state your opinion.
Well, my opinion will be very subjective. I think I don't represent most of the opinions. Practically, sorry. There's a lot of noise in my place for now. So, well, now I see it in, well, at my age now, most of my friends already are parents. So I need to see it from both ways. As a kid, I mean, as a child, to bear my parents' needs, and also as the one who runs the family I'm initiating now. Well, I don't see it in a bad way. I mean, we have to take care of others as a family, of course. So I'm happy for taking care of my parents.
Okay.
But also in my perspective as the one who start initiating the family, I think I would not agree to normalize the situations into the next generations if I would like to make the new generations. I mean, if I want to have a kid, I don't want my kid to have the same situations as I have. Well, I don't know how to tell, but yes, I don't agree to normalize these situations. I mean, well, although it is good to take care of your parents, doesn't mean that it should be your obligations as a kid to bear the family situations of your parents. I mean, I'm happy to do this, but it shouldn't be normalized.
It shouldn't be normalized. You're happy if you're willing to do that by your own, but it's not to be an obligation.
Yes, and I will not be happy to bring the same situations to my kid in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Is there anything you want to add?
Well, in order to do that, I think everybody who already a parent or try to be a parent or try to initiate the family, try to assess yourself first. I mean, if you are
Assess.
not agree, yes. I mean,
Nice
if you
word.
don't ready, I mean, if you're not ready yet, just don't do it.
Okay.
Sorry, that's very subjective. I'm sorry.
That's fine. This is the subjectiveness of your opinion actually relies on whether or not it could be a solution to others, while something subjective can be an objective as well, based on whether or not it's can be generalized. So that's fine, Mr. Alfian. It's really nice to know that you're basically think of that parents should actually assess themselves whether or not they're capable of being a parent or not, and how basically being parents is such a hard job to do, that is not only to take care of yourself, but it's also to take care of your children later, and whether or not in the future your children become responsible to others' lives. I want to hear the counter opinion from other who might think that, oh, it's tradition or it's something that should be normalized. Miss Ekalita, do you have any opinion?
I think if we say normal or not, of course it's not normal because the kids have their own interests and needs also. But in the complex situation, someone has to take the responsibility, right? Like Mr. I forgot the name. He didn't want the kids doing the jobs, but for himself, he feels that it's better to take care of his parents, although it's hard for him also, mostly for the spouse, yeah, because the spouse is maybe not involved because it's not their parents' right, but it's different from the child inside itself, their self. So I think we cannot say that this is normal or not, but in some case, if there is no one take care the responsibility for the parents or the relatives, of course the financial responsibility will be burdened with the closest family, right? It's kids or the parent. There is some parents that have to take the responsibility for their families, like Miss I forgot the name, that her mom is taking the responsibility, right? And I think in some point we have to back to the religion is because for our peace on our soul itself, because the God said that he will give the test, right, for the every human. There is some people that test with the bad conduct and with the burden of the family or with the luxury. So I think it's the portion of the people, because no one can run from their task.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the matters. We cannot say that it's normal or not, but there is no government or the environment or the families that taking care of the responsibility, because it means that we agree that we send them into the street, right? No food, no clothes, right? And they will be a beggar. It's more, maybe in our side it's not our responsibility, but how is your heart when your closest family has to send into the street? So I think everybody will say that, okay, this is not my responsibility, but if I didn't take care my relatives, they will be more troubles. Maybe we have some suffering from that, but I think we have also have some reliefs, to see that we can help them, maybe food or medicine or anything else that we can do for them. But if you cannot do it because there are some people that they didn't want, they didn't mean not to help, but they also in the limited situation. So the parent maybe have to overcome themselves, like selling, or maybe asking, I don't know, asking money from others, something like that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Borrow
maybe.
money, yeah.
Yeah, because there's my therapist that said that her mom is have to make her own earning her own money. And yeah, and she didn't mean not to helping her, but her and her family also have no money for beside themselves, because they are very limited. Yeah, that's the condition. If you cannot covering them, they will be have to earning for themselves, although they are so old. And yeah, they have to force themselves to have some money. And for some people, they maybe have to relieve to see the relatives going to the street beggar, or maybe for some people they have to tolerate the relatives to have a bad job. Yeah, maybe like thieves, yeah, something like that, or criminals, or maybe a prostitute or gigolo, I don't know, maybe because it's the very complicated, because I have read that when these women died, the family didn't know what she was doing, and after his death, being murdered, and they don't know what their job, because the newspaper apa menyiarkan tuh apa ya maksudnya something like that. So I think maybe we have to see beyond the condition, before we have the opinion normal or not.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Akalita, for stating. I love the fact that you brought up about, it's basically not supposed to be normalized, but it's just we use our emotion to think that we don't want our family or relatives basically being, thrown away on the street, thinking that it's not our responsibility to take care of them. So I think that's also the part of why social construction is basically built or established, because we are too much focusing on our emotional bonding, that we care too much to our relatives, that we think that is becoming, it creates the thoughts or mindset that, oh, it's our responsibility because I was fed, I was raised, I was taken care of by my parents, so that it becomes the responsibility, because it's something like our way of being grateful and thankful to our previous generation. It's interesting to hear from that. All right. Does anyone want to share another opinion? So as I love the fact that some of you actually brought up about this social construction. It's really true that in Indonesia, we have we are too friendly to others, even not just caring to our family or our relatives or our blood related, people, but even other people who are not related with us. We are too much caring to us. Our empathy and our emotional bonding to others are really high, that we are too caring to others. Like, you can see from other people, we're not supposed to be related right now, but we can care to each other. Indonesian is very friendly and have that emotional bonding to even the strangers, while other people, other people from other countries, they're very individualistic, that it becomes normal that we are basically living on our own, standing on our own, rather than fulfilling other needs that probably are not relevant again with our lives. All right, so let's move on. If no one wants to share another opinion, I still have some buckets of question. Don't you worry. So still talking about the social construction, I want to hear what you thought what do you guys think the challenges of sandwich generation has to face? Is it neglectable, or is it something that probably can actually, prevent? I want to hear from other opinion who's never spoken their opinion. I want to hear from, I don't know, is Miss Dia or Mr. Dia? Hello, Miss Dia. I believe that you're okay. Hello.
I'm Mr.
Okay, Miss Dia.
Yeah, sorry, I've joined this meeting recently. So what is the question?
The questions on the screen, it states that what do you think the challenges of sandwich generation has to face? But have you, heard or known about sandwich generation before? Or have you heard from
yes,
our okay, so what do you think the sandwich generation has to face? Is it neglectable, or we can prevent it, basically, the challenges they heading on them?
Okay. Maybe the challenge that the sandwich generation face is related about the retirement, because she has maybe doubled problems from their parents that have no enough money preparing for the parents' retirement, and then they also have to. They also have to, ready with any hurdles that came to the finance, maybe about buy a new home, and then with the new family as well, and also for their retirement. So that's why it's like a double burden for the sandwich generation.
So you think it's neglectable, or we can actually, it's inevitable? It's basically, when you're a sandwich generation, it's absolutely happening to you.
I think we have here early, so we can prepare and prevent with any maybe challenge that sandwich generation will face in the future. Yeah, maybe they can save earlier, and then maybe save with the other tools of investment.
I love that. Okay. So you think it's it's preventable?
It can be prevented.
All right, thank you, Miss Dia, for stating your opinion. I want to hear from Miss Rikanti. Is that Miss? Hello? All right, I want to hear, basically, guys, another challenge is probably like physically or mentally, or what challenges or hindrances that sandwich generation has to face. Okay, Mr. Ririn. Oh, wow. All right, Ms. Ririn, let me hear what your opinion.
Yeah, I think the challenges mostly people talk about is the mentally draining, how mentally draining the situation is when you are a part of sandwich generation, and it costs you mentally and financially, but basically the mental problem comes from the financial. And I think it's, besides that, I think it's also become impossible to be escaped if once you are already in that circle. If you are like a new family, starting a new family and start having kids, I think it's preventable. But when you are already in the circle, it's pretty much impossible to get out from, because when you are in such situation, there are a lot of considerations that needs to be taken. For example, when you chose to just ignore everything and leave your family, you're going to go through a lot of dilemma, which leads to another mental problems, right?
Exactly.
For example, you're going to hear a lot of hatred towards you, because when I actually see people posting about their mental problems because they become the sandwich generations, and then they whine about the situation,
Ah.
a lot of people are actually calling them out, like, you are ungrateful, you're such a, I don't know what you call durhaka, ungrateful brats. And then yeah, and then a lot of bad words are thrown at you. And then besides that, if you're also considering the religious values, you are actually going against the religions, for example, because the religions told you to I don't know, what do you call that, being
like obeying with your parents.
yeah, obeying your parents, and then by neglecting them, you're actually doing sins. So yeah, it's a lot to take, and it becomes impossible to be neglected. So I actually dislike the idea that being sandwich generation is a responsibility, but then again, I think people makes it responsibility voluntarily because they do not want more problems coming to it. So coming from it. So yeah, that's how it rolls, I think. Yeah.
Interesting. When you brought up about emotion or mental draining, have you experienced any mental draining as sandwich generation? Are you a part of it or not?
Luckily, I'm not part of it.
Nice.
Even though I am financially independent, I mean, I've been struggling for myself, but in my adult life, I don't have to take care of my parents. They can take care of themselves too. I think the problem also comes from our tradition, or how it is not common here in Indonesia to have that job of caregiving, because in Malaysia, in like Western countries, it's very common for people to have caregivers, and then to have gone to, what do you call that, when you're retiring and you're old, and then you're living in a house,
nurturing house.
Nursing house, nursing. I don't know.
It's like it's like when you
I forget the name.
for those retirees and those old parents.
Yeah, so there will be nurses taking care of you, and then you pay for a certain amount of money for that.
Yeah.
And because the facilities are there, so before you are retiring, before you are going to the situation where you have to, you don't have a more active income, you have already saved up for your old life. And I think it's a lot of problems here. That's why the sandwich generation become that high, more than 50%.
Exactly. Yes,
right?
that's true. Yeah. Interesting that you brought up about that fact about the nurturing house. Or is there any proper way of saying that? Please let us know, guys. Exactly. I forget to. The way we, other country are preparing this scenario basically is more developed than our country, that we don't think, because of this social construction, that government thinks that we are just basically going to take care of our families. Then it's not a it's not a burden for a government to basically building a proper caregiving, like a nurturing house for the elders, or those people who probably have no children and they don't have someone to take care of themselves, like that. So I think it's real interesting to bring up about that, the welfare that probably government can give, but hold that answers later for the next question. Thank you, Ms. Ririan, for stating your opinion. Nice to know that that's how basically the Sandwich generation has to face. Does anyone want to share their opinion for this question, or I can move to another question? Right. I see the chat room. Heaven is under the palm of your mom's feet. Love that. So what do you do with that? Birrul Walidain. Interesting, Mr. Yunus, but you have to explain to us. Not everyone knows Arabic. But thank you for, is that Arabic, or if it's not? Okay, I want to hear from Mr. Yunus. What do you think about the opinion? I know this question, I'm sorry. Mr. Yunus, can you speak on your mind? All right, so let's move on to the next question. I believe that so this question basically like the way our social, our people in Indonesia is basically really so, thinking about children. So I want to hear, as I believe that not everyone wants to have children basically anyway. It's really like optional, preferable, preference. So the question is it culturally or a proven narrative if having too many children can be considered long-term investment to our future? It's like when you are guys, a lot, this is, like a spread, well-known narrative that our children is our income, right? So what do you guys think about it? Do you think that our children basically can be considered as long-term investment? Does anyone want to share their opinion? Anyone?
Mr. Demos, I think
Yeah, okay, Mr. Evander. But before that, please raise your hand first.
All right.
That's fine. Okay, give your opinion, Mr. Evander.
Right. Actually, I also come from a big family. My mom, I think, is the third among 6 sisters, and my father is the second among 7 siblings. So
7.
yeah, among 7.
My father is 11 from 12.
Wow.
So we share the same big nuclear family. All right, going on, Mr.
Actually, there is a statement stated that every children has their own blessings, like for our family, but it didn't state that the blessing should be at the financial term or an investment term.
Okay.
So actually, I think what people is missing about the words blessing is that they tend to think that the children who will later be born at our family can be used to helping our financial, right? They let's say the old era or the ancient eras, people always thinks like that. And I think there's a misconception
misconception
in that statement because like what Miss Ekalita, if I'm not mistaken, or Miss Ririn ever stated that every children has their own interest, every children has their own path, and you can consider all of them just as just as a pillar to help your family financially. So actually, I don't want to say that this is the word investment is actually not really suitable, but I would like to use the word chance, or actually lots of chance to bring a better environment for your family.
All right.
That's actually from me. Thank you.
Okay, nice to know that you change the word investment to be chance. Nice. I love the fact that your family is coming from big family as well, big number of families, so that we understand that having too many people in our family doesn't mean it's an investment. It's something else, which is very different. All right. Actually, Miss Sophie and Miss Akalita raising their hands, but I want to hear from Miss Sophie. Are you willing to share your opinion?
Yes. Mr. Demos, please stop me if I speak too longer. Okay.
Okay, stop. Not yet. All right. Okay, please state yours, please. State yours.
All right. Okay. This is very interesting. I wish I could give my opinion every slide because you manage them very, very interesting. But regarding to this question, I disagree with the second statement that have been mentioned in your slide because first of all, we have overpopulated.
Yes, we are.
Even though you are such a billionaire like Halilintar.
Again, Halilintar. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I love the fact you bring that. Thank you.
It's still not effective because the more kids, the more the more thing that they spend. It's not only in financial fields, but it's also for environments in general. So just don't don't giving birth too often. No,
give.
no, just kidding, just kidding. That's all your choice. You can have as many children as you want, of course. Uh if you also can responsible all of them. But in my personal opinion, I completely disagree with the narrative that having too many children can be considered a long-term investment, because first of all, your children is not first of all, third of all, your children can guarantee you anything for their future, even though you have already invested them to sign up them in a international school. Every their needs you have fulfilled very perfectly since the beginning, but still there is no guarantee that they will give you feedback as what you want, because anything could be happening in the future. They could be sick, they could be have change their mind, they could learn from far away from your home and have principle or have idealism that I don't want to live like my parents told me, or the way my parents told me to, how the way we should believe. I want to live with my own way. It could be happen as well. So yeah, I disagree.
All right, thank you for your disagreement. I think it's really important to basically noticing that just because you have option to have so many kids, or so how many children you want to have, but you have to consider that, is it wise to have so many children if when you are not even enough will financially well enough to actually support all of them. So when people, but I do respect those people who basically think that who have their beliefs on this type of things, but think wisely that just because you may consider them as someone or those people to have to bring you better life in the future doesn't mean that they have to do that in the future. It means like it's still optional or something that preferenceable, like the way you mentioned that it's not supposed to be an investment. And Mr. Ifando already mentioned it's better to say chance instead of investment. All right, anyone wants to share their opinion? I've never heard from Mr. Farid. Mr. Farid, are you there? Mr. Farid? Or Miss Elsa? Miss Elsa, you want to share your opinion? I love the fact that Mr. Ku is saying that.
Sorry,
Oh yeah. Want to share about your opinion regarding the second question? Is it culturally all proven narrative if having too many children can be considered long-term investment to our future? In Indonesia, we say that banyak anak, banyak rezeki.
Actually, I do not agree with that. I think it's the idea has burned because in our colonialism era, we need to have a family need a lot of children to help the parents in field to plan palawija or something like that. So the colonialism will gain more money took money from us. So it's not relative in our era now, right now. And yeah, because of that, some of parents having a mind if the children will be our investment. Like me as parent will give our children to the best university, so they would join and work in big companies. So they can pay my money. So yeah, it's not all about the sculptor. It's like being a system. I think it's all.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you, Miss Elsa. It's interesting that you brought up about colonialisms and how it basically has been changed, in recent years. So thank you for stating that. Okay, Miss Dia, you raise your hand, state your opinion.
Yes, Mr. Maybe I just want to make a variation because anyone in this Zoom meeting just say didn't agree with the statement, but maybe
So
some
you
of the
agree?
yeah, maybe not totally agree,
Not
but
totally agree. How many % you agree?
okay, maybe 50% because it depends on the situation.
Situation.
Yeah.
Okay, please elaborate.
I guess that some countries, I mean, maybe developed countries that have problem about the older generation because they leading to have an older generation, and this is very difficult for the nation to keep their productivity if the older generation just growing up against and against, and they don't have people that in the productivity age in 20 until 45. And also the nation even give like a bonus for those who can make child and give the productivity age, I mean, people that have a productivity in their nations. Maybe in Indonesia it's overpopulated, but in some countries it just the country wise for the situation. So maybe not investing is not 100% correct, but we cannot neglect that it also happened in the other country. I mean, investment for the children is also going to be right in the nation.
So you're basically saying that why do you agree with the statement of basically children can be considered long investment is because it's relevant with demographic bonus that we need more people to be productive in the future?
Yes, Indonesia is predicted to be an older generation in 30 40 years in the future. So sometimes this quote just beneficial. Maybe year, I don't know what exactly in the year, but it's just overpopulated.
It's a really long way of thinking that. But yeah, I love the fact that you brought up about another angle of thinking that way because it's really long way to go. It could be happening if the children basically that we are preparing for the next generation, like for the future, are basically well educated and they are well supported financially as well. But if it's just like they're coming from the poor family or they're continuing the chain of second generation, I think it's really hard to actually gain the demographic bonus that we're expecting in 2030. So, but still nice angle to thought about. Thank you, Miss Dia, for stating another opinion. All right. Okay, Mr. Eki wants to share. Give you 3 minutes to speak if you can make it as short as possible. I want to.
I'll make it as short as I will make it as short as possible.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, we cannot call it as investment because basically investment involves something that could give you a benefit. And if you want to make investment, it's based on calculation and analyze. And then when it comes to humans' behavior, it is more likely to be impossible because everyone's life is complicated as our own. Even though we can have or share same experience, but the way we interpret it could be different. And I mean, when I said experience, I'm more likely to call it as a data that we collect from our life. Even though you, as a dad, you already collect a lot of data, and then you hope that your kids also get the same data. And then if the kids get the same data, then you could predict the next movement. But the problem is, it is almost impossible to collect the same data in the two completely life. I mean, is in two complete different times. For example, if your dad, let's say, could be succeeds because in the past he used to have productive friends, or like friends who genuinely help him. And then when it comes to the kids, this more like a gamble. If he get, then he succeed. If he not, then he will not succeed. So this investment more refers to a gamble when it comes to humans' behavior. So you cannot call it as investment, in my personal opinion, because there is a chance, there is a big chance that these investment based on expectation and based on hope will not be succeed. But there is still a chance. I mean, it depends on how you analyze the circumstances and on how do you understand or comprehend what is exactly happened in your surrounding. I think that's it.
All right. I love the fact that you brought up about that terminology of investment, that it's basically based on the data and how you analyze it calculatively, thinking that when we're considering that children are the investments means that we need to talk about more about analysis and stuff like that. It's interesting, and it's a gambling basically. But to the fact that basically sandwich generation only happened to those who are coming from middle and lower income family, where basically if we have good financial, when you're rich or you're from a wealthy family, then it's almost impossible to basically continuing the sandwich generation, even though there is possible outcome that you are being poor again, or you're getting broken, you're getting broke again, but still the chances of that is basically small. But thank you for stating that. It's investment or gambling. Adopting potential prodigy kid might be good investment, but making it on your own, I don't think so, unless you and your partner are also prodigy. Interesting. Well, you should actually talk about that here, Mr. Alvin. But thank you for stating that. All right, let's continue to the next question. I think we still have some times, right, Miss Chopi? All right, so
yes, sir.
All right, so we still
Sorry,
have,
I'm eating.
That's fine. We still have around 30 minutes, right?
Yeah,
all
30
right.
minutes left.
Okay, so I want to hear one person speaking about what do you guys think the difference between being sandwich generation in Gen Z, Y, and X? Well, if Miss Ekalita stating that what is Gen Z? Gen Z is among age below 24 basically, or the Y is basically around 24 to 39, and the X is around 40 to 55. So here in Indonesia, that being sandwich generation are divided into this 3 generation, and the percentage is basically bigger in the Gen Y. Yes. What do you think the difference between sandwich generation and different generation, in different type of generation? I want to hear from Mr. Ku. Mr. Ku, are you there?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Am I audible? All right.
Yes,
Thanks
you're crystal clear.
thanks for the outstanding chance of
I know this question is supposed for you. I already prepared this question for you.
My goodness. What do you think the differences between sandwich generation in GZ, X, Y, and so forth? I reckon that based on my territory or rural area, because I do not live in urban area, but I try to think of both side, rural area and urban area. In fact, that in rural area, talking about Gen Z, Z generation, Alpha generation, I try to unfold about education. Why? The way how to eradicate between poor and elite. We only have way to bridge them, to break the rules, the stigma and perspective is only by way of educating the society. Means that generation will survive or will declined about the how to say about the burden between how to get privilege and how to get the chance higher and higher. I only have the way of breaking down their perspective or their paradigm because of in rural area they still separated between rich and unrich they because they have privilege or not. The question is do we have confidence to take the chance whether you are coming from rich or poor, privileged or unprivileged? We only have confidence and the chance to take it. We take it or leave it. It's what our perspective that we have to implant in our next generations because in this case with the practicality it doesn't mean that we have no chance to compete it. For instance, several days ago I got a text from my friend who learned in top level university in Indonesia because of they do not proper to learn what they have concerned about. Of course they will be audited. Nowadays we just become open-minded, inclusive, and just update to elevate. If we do not update, upgrade, and elevate, of course we will be all fashioned
Update,
because the
upgrade,
world is
elevate.
fast moving. Yeah, fast moving,
Code of the day.
changing. And we look forward to how to say concern what we are fond of it to how to say to improve our skill set. Whether you are can deep dive about your specialist, but in a surface you can be generalist.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that we are specialists, but we concern about one thing. I notice if we are only specialists in one thing, maybe sooner or later AI will be replaced because of the job repetition. That's what I learned lately. Thank you very much.
Wow. All right. I love the fact you brought up as well about being generalists and specialists in terms of how the education disparities between rural area and city basically are also affecting the way we are exposed to education and how it affects the generation. Basically, I'm actually trying to connect between how you can update, upgrade, and elevate. Is that right? To our generation so that we can actually, implement those idealisms so that our generation can prevent this issue. All right. Actually, I want to question this question as well to Miss Asti, but unfortunately she left. She's psychologist. She studied, right, Miss Rin? She studied psychology. So actually I want to ask from the perspective of psychologists basically. But I have Miss Putri here. Hello, Miss Putri.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Miss Putri. All right. Same question with Mr. Ku. What do you think the difference between being sandwich generation in Gen Z, Y, and X? Because this type of generation has their own characteristic because of their living and surroundings they're growing differently based on the years they're living, right? Like the Gen Z, they're living with the advancement of technology, while the Gen Y and X are coming up with the more social interaction and stuff like that. So the characteristic build up from this different surroundings and characteristic creates different way of adaptability and creates different way of being dependent, create different dependency and the way we see the world. How, in your opinion, think that the difference between sandwich generation in these three different generation?
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dedi.
Sure.
I think, in my opinion, I assume that Gen Y and boomers more acceptance. The acceptance is bigger than Gen Y of being sandwich generation. It's because lately we known sandwich generations in few years.
In few years, okay.
Yes, it's become more, how I can say it, iconic, right? Everyone's talking about sandwich generation, and we know that sandwich generation is already there before Gen Y come, but Gen Y highlight the sandwich generation because they thinks or they feels that this is are a heavy burden in their life. So I think from that point of view, I think that baby boomers and generation X, X is more accept of being sandwich generation than Gen Y. And also I also one of sandwich generation in my family.
Interesting.
Yep. And I think it's been it's been, I think, almost 7 years. I've been enjoy doing it because if doesn't me, who can do it for my family like that. So being sandwich generation is not on, it's not a burden for me, but it's a blessings because I can help my family, I can help my brothers to pursue their education, and also I can help my family to have good meals every day in their in our homes, even though I didn't living together with my family.
Interesting. Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
May I ask you, what generation are you in? Are you Gen Z, Gen Y, or Gen X?
I am, let me see from the, I'm Gen, in this cases, I'm Gen Y. Actually,
So
I born in 1996, but from another source,
it's 96 Gen Z, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, you are more acceptance than I thought. If you're Gen Z, Gen Z, you're more accepting. I thought that why the older generation are more acceptance because they actually, they are the ones who create the social construction about why taking care of our parents or our relatives are a part of doing good deeds and being a part of getting blessings and rewards from God, because the belief of doing the belief from older generation are way stronger than how it is now in our generation right now, where the beliefs of thinking that being individualistic these days are really strong. The idealism of being individualistic is really strong. That's the reason why I thought that I do agree that some of the older generation are way more accepting than the younger generation. Thank you, Ms. Putri. I see that Mr. raised his hand again. 2 hands, actually. One for raising and another one for giving thumbs.
Thanks for the second chance. I just want to highlight my statement before that what I have watched talking about Sam Altman and Dr. Yazanta, which was the main team of OpenAI, which refers to open up the chance to grow up and learn more and more, means that nowadays I do agree what you have alluded before, talking about Gen Z might be tend to or look forward to be individualistic, to explore, to achieve, to reach whatever they wanted. But if you consider about the sandwich generations, we talk about saving the society, who tries to survive the society, means that if we want to grow faster alone, it doesn't matter. But we are as human, we can't live we can't stand in this world alone. We
Mhm.
need to collaborate, to connect, to contribute, whether it is in a family, society, environment, in small scale, up to uh, a large scale.
Mhm.
The point is, Gen Z or sandwich generations, will the generation be utopian or dystopian to face it in this case
Mm.
before they earning or helping their parents to settle or to survive in this case nowadays,
Yeah.
because might as well what I have talked before is someone who is just aware and who takes care to save the
Mhm.
society. Maybe what I can look up to my environment nowadays.
Mhm.
That's it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you for your additional points, Mr. Ku. It's really surprising that you're suddenly giving another additional opinion, but that's nice to clear it up things. All right, let's move on to the next question. So talking about this sustainable generation and how you guys already stated your own opinions and notions is real interesting. So was that? Fasik told me, okay. Okay, what could be the main factors of someone falling into the unbreakable chain of being sandwich generation? Do we agree if the sandwich generation only occurs as the virtue by the inability of coping with financial issues? Do you guys think that the only problem that generation falls into sandwich generation because of the inability of coping with financial issues? Because if you are from a wealthy family, I think it's really hard to call them a sandwich generation when you are, when you are able to spend your own money in your pocket. Miss Sophie, I'm afraid that you are not in airplane. You're somewhere.
I'm not. I'm at the airport.
So
I'm
you've
not in
been
the air-
waiting in the airport this whole time.
I've been waiting.
Oh my goodness. How strong you are. All right. So what do you think?
Okay. Another interesting slide. Really appreciate that. And thank you for another opportunity. I think one of the reason is there is a stigma, like Eki mentioned before. I remember he had mentioned that there is social construct.
Yes.
Also we call it other words, we call it stigma in our society, that in order to be a good kid, a good daughter, a good son, you have to take care of your parents in literally any fields, including financial. And if you don't do that, you will become durhaka. I don't know what is the English of that, but you're gonna be a bad kid.
So durhaka, faithless.
I'm gonna
Mr.
search.
Ku, please educate us.
I'm gonna search it for that after this, after I talk. Okay, so there is also of course there is the kids in the process of their growing up, they feel scared if they cannot be able to fulfill the necessity, not only for themselves but also for others, that I don't know how many people that they should be taken care of, because sometimes it's not only for the parents but for the younger siblings, that the 11 siblings, I don't know, so many. And it just so exhausting to I wish we have some situation or a proper question, like a proper request, like I've been working so hard, can I just take my money please? But no, right? The reality is not. We should be like share. That's the point. We always have to share, even though how less is the money, how little is our income, we should share. Yeah, we have to share. And it just so hard to break that kind of stigma, because they will label us with certain kind of names that not really good.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's from mine.
Thank you, Miss Sophie, for stating again about the social construction or the stigma of society when you're not able to basically take care of your parents or your family. I want to hear from other, probably one person, because we still have some questions. I want to hear from Mr. Farid. Mr. Farid, are you there? Mr. Miftah Farid. All right, no, okay. So let's hear from Evander. Evander, are you still, are you still with us?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you do think that the only main factor of sandwich, falling into the unbreakable chain of being sandwich generation is because of the inability, or by the virtue of the inability of coping with the financial issues? So if you're the generation from poor family or poverty, but you study financials or you learn financial, do you think that's the solution, or the financial issues are something that's the only reason why we are falling into?
Okay. But actually, to speak about these questions, I would like to have another point of view. Let's say that this sandwich generation is let's say this sandwich generation occurs, but it doesn't occurs in a poor family. Let's say there's a sample case like that. It occurs in quite an economically stable family, but it occurs because there is a dispute of how you should, for example, like this. When we are having a family, there will always be two sides, right? The husband side and the wife side, or well, you like to say the father side or the mother side. Like there are two sides of family, and you can never deny that there will always be dispute or arguments about not only just about financial things but also non-financial things, right? Let's say even in my culture, which is the Chinese culture, even conducting the naming ritual for the first kid of the marriage is also actually usually led to dispute or arguments, and as a part of the family, especially the husband and wife, they, in my opinion, they are also how do I say that? They are also, I think this can also be concluded as sandwich generation trouble. So not only financial factors which can cause this sandwich generation, but also culture or
cultural
argument. Yeah, argument, especially about which led to an argument about pride, I think. Yeah, but pride between the both sides. So it's not actually about coping with financial issues, but also the pride of each family side right there. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So thank you, Mr. Refanda. Okay, according to Smear Research Institute, or that it stated that 70% children, poor children, will have like lower income when they're growing or when they're adults, compared to those people who are not coming from the poor, the poor family. So basically, poverty is also like the chain, is like a loop situation. When you're poor, you're basically going to be poor itself. That's, I also remember once, like a narrative stating that the chance of being really wealthy people or becoming wealthy is because you're coming also from the wealthy family, because you have the privilege of actually sustaining your wealthiness instead of trying to change the situation of this, changing the status quo. So it's kind of, the percentage of those poor people becoming rich are basically very small compared to those people who are basically rich and just sustaining their richness. So I want to hear one person to give another opinion. That's what is called structural poverty. Okay, Mr. Lin, please giving me the opinion about the structural poverty.
Oh, yeah, I think it's structural structural poverty is the main factor, because it's not only like one cause, it's structural. It comes from the very beginning. It comes from the failure from the authority to ensure everyone is in a well-being condition, the failure of making jobs and opportunities for people available for everyone, accessible. Yeah, it's structural, and then it's caused by so many factors. That's why it's called structural poverty, because it's not only because you don't want to work, but it's because
There's
the
no
situation,
accessible.
the facilities given, the chances, the job vacancies, the what do you call that, the law, the law and the solutions provided by your governments, or the surroundings, the environment, the culture, even the religions. It's complicated.
It's
That's why
complicated.
it
Yeah.
becomes a structural problem that leads to poverty, that is not so easy to be solved. It cannot be solved only by you working harder. It needs to be a lot of stakes to work on that. The government, the people, the stereotypes, and also yourself, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ririn.
Education.
Yes, absolutely. I love the fact that you brought up about the structural poverty and how it's very relevant to the sandwich generation, because absolutely the main factor of falling under the definition of sandwich generation when you're unable to actually cope with the financial issues. And financial issues also really diverse, coming up from different different roots, such as the structural poverty, the government's welfare are not well given and supported, and there's a lot of things, even like education, and the way that we don't seeing the social construction, like the way we see children as an investment, also part of how we create the sandwich generation. But I want to bring one question, actually. Basically, we still have some question, but one last question for all of you guys is the question is, I'm gonna skip this one, jump to the third question, is that I want to know, what do you guys think about being sandwich generation based on their genders? Do you think that being sandwich generation as women as men are different? Do you think that women who has to take care of their family and their after generation are way difficult than the men can cope up with that? I want to hear some of your perspective towards this before we end the discussion. I believe that we still have 2 minutes. So who wants to explain the difference between genders, affected by the sandwich generation? I want to actually hear from Mr. Fari, because he's never spoken before. Let's hear from Miss Elsa. Are you there? Or Mr. Alvin? Wow, Mr. Andy, you're coming very on time. Yes, I'm there. Okay, would you like to share? What do you think? Do you think that being a sandwich generation as a woman or as a man are different? Because in our status quo right now, that a woman as the housewife is basically taking care not only her husbands, but also their children, even though they're not having the passive income. They're just waiting for the husband's income, but they also has to take care of their families, especially when it comes to like Miss Asti before. She stated her own personal stories about how her mother become the sandwich generation. I want to hear that because the society thinks that, oh, Mr. Eki. Okay, Mr. Eki.
I want to add a bit of opinion on this, but can I
Sure.
confirm something? Do we talk about a specific field, like in emotional aspect or in financial, which one?
You can bring both.
Or both. When it comes in financial, it gave women in the less advantageous position. Because I mean, how do I say this? It is possible to make more money. Women can make more money than a man, but not all the times, because we believe that not every job is accessible for women. But on the other hand, for emotional field, men found it quite difficult to comprehend, because we as a man tend to not express our feelings as women do. So when it is about like understanding kid feelings, parents' feelings, man is found it more difficult. That's what I believe.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eki. Okay, I think that would be the last statement or the last answer for our question. Basically, it's truly correct when we're stating that genders are basically affecting differently towards the sandwich generation effect, comparing to the fact that we are in the current status quo of the social construction that women is less than men, which is actually I'm not, I don't believe on that. But it creates a different way of how it basically becoming the wave of effect, an effect from the sandwich generation itself. So thank you so much, guys, for your nice opinion and well-rounded perspectives. I'm very thankful to actually have you guys here, that you guys are sharing lots of insightful opinions. Unfortunately, we are not coming to the last question, which is how we broke the chain of the sandwich generation. But think of it in your house, think of it in your room, how we can actually solve this sandwich generation, and comment on the Instagram of OTA how we solve it. We would like to hear that more. So thank you so much for everyone. That's from me. I'm so sorry if I say something mistakenly or I ask something that you probably feel uncomfortable with, or you actually want to speak more. We're encouraging to come again in the next meeting. I give it back to my host tonight, Miss Sophie. Thank you, everyone. Miss Sophie.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Daddy Mustari. That is so, I think, not only cool, but also insightful, as you said, because most of participants here are very active. And also, I really appreciate the way you lead the discussion. I think we're already pretty equal here. You let the shy one speak their mind, and without decreasing the extroverted one. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So guys, I would like to give you some feedback here. Let me share it from the chat box. You can see from there. Okay. So the first one is instead of saying too much words, we can say too many words, since word is countable, or something that a word that we can count. So many is the right word for it. And the second one is, sometimes we always say it's mean, but the correct one is it means. Okay, or which means. And also we can change the I already when you would like to say something, aku sudah, for example, aku sudah mendengarnya, you can say I already heard, but it's also correct if you using perfect tense, which is I have plus verb 3. I have given my opinion, I have spoken before, I have heard that information, he has mentioned before, to just divert the sentences, to make the sentences more interesting, I think. Yeah, just alternatives. But if you want to say I already, that's also correct. And also that is one of conjunction that we always use, that we always using that. But as the alternative, we can say which for noun. For example, the tradition, which very common, and also who for a person, the person who is passionate about. The person that passionate about is also correct, but this is just alternative. The place where you can found in, the place that also correct actually. But if you confuse, when do we use which, where, and who, just use that. That is the safest word you can use. And also menyiarkan is broadcast. Very interesting. You can change into intriguing, fascinating, engaging, to make the to avoid the repetition word. And also there is some difference between for me and to me, because sometimes when we would like to showing our opinion, we tend to say, for me it's not like this, for me it's not like that, but it's actually to me. When you would like to show your opinion, to me it's like I think. It's same like I think, in my opinion. The difference is, if you would like to say, if you want to use for me, make sure it's something that impacts you or benefits you. For example, it is good for me to read a book 15 minutes a day. And the example of to me is her happiness is the priority. And the last one is from Mr. Ku. The English of Durhaka is insubordinate fatelet. I'm really sorry, it's not really complete because I'm moving from one place to another place, from station to airport. I know this is not an excuse, but I hope this is enough for us to learn our grammar. And I really thankful for you guys to willing to learn and join the discussion until the end. I really appreciate that, and thank you for letting yourself learn something tonight. That's very good for our progress. Last but not least, before we're taking picture, I would like to say thank you again for Mr. Demos. You are so cool tonight. I hope we can have another discussion with you. Thank you for bringing up this topic, because this topic is very common, yet we haven't really discussed about it in detail. But you gave us a time and platform to just giving our thoughts.
The platform is basically from you. It's Kota.
Thank you for the idea of this topic.
Thank you for having me. I actually want to welcome Mr. Andi Alif. He's basically my friend from Makassar. Unfortunately, this is the end, Mr. Andi Alif.
Hi, Mr. Andi Alif. You can join us every week on Sunday night at 8 WIB. And also I have seen Mr. Ririn already gone. Okay. Mr. Ririn is actually one of my friend too in Samarinda.
So we basically were the same teachers in the same English course in Samarinda. So that's the reason why I invited her.
Yeah.
All right.
I think so too. Thank you,
Is it a
guys.
photo session?
Yeah, let's take a picture. Could you please take
Turn
a picture?
on your camera, guys.
Yeah, please, guys, show us your beautiful and handsome faces.
This is what I've been waiting, Mr. Evander and Mr. Ko. You should actually turn on your cameras.
Yeah, Miss Elsha.
Okay, how about the others? Yes, turn on your camera,
Please.
guys. Let's take a picture.
Okay, guys.
I'm sorry, I can't activate my camera. That's fine. Okay, bye, Elsa. I will take a picture from behind you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Andi. Mr. Olive, I'm actually waiting for your opinion though. But that's fine. You should join next week.
I had a meeting tonight, but fortunately I can catch you up.
All right. Okay. Is it Mr. Ku taking a picture?
Oh, yeah. Mr.
Okay,
Ku,
let
could
me
you
do it
please-
then.
Okay.
All right.
Because I'm using phone, it's portrait. I'm sorry.
Okay, sure. All right, everyone. In 3, 1, 2, 3, give your very best smile. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, another style. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, one last time. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, thank you everyone for tonight's discussion.
Thank you so much,
Have a
Mr.
good
Daddy. Thank you,
night.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you everyone. All right, let's end these.